All right, so we are back with the final episode of Last Choice TV Reviews, House of the Dragon. This episode was crazy. I'm super excited to kind of jump in and give my thoughts. And of course, this week, while Ender is still out, we bring back Fire the Cannon from our Blue Jackets and Ohio Sports podcast, the 614 and beyond. So we're super excited to have you here again, Jason. So Jason, let me just kick it over to you. Tell me your initial thoughts on this episode.
This one blew me away. I know there was a lot going on, and there was obviously some stuff that we didn't expect. I didn't expect to happen, and then some stuff that we finally kind of got around to. I got to see not to give too much away before you talk about it, but we got to see the cool table. With the I think it was dragon glass, right? Mm-hmm. All lit up with the fire and stuff like that, and
that was super cool.
Last week we talked about some interesting scene, and there was another, in my opinion, brutal scene. So it was a couple brutal scenes, actually, if you ask me. But man, this one was wild. I can't wait to get into it. But I was just I was ready to go. I'm already ready for. I don't know how long we have to wait for the next season. I haven't looked at it yet, but man, I'm ready to go already.
Yeah, the cliffhanger. I mean, it definitely it's set up really, really well, and it's the first time we're left really wanting more and feeling like, when is it going to come type deal, where before so far every kind of cliffhanger was really answered really quickly for us.
Right.
So let's jump right in. You go over to Dragonstone, and the first scene is Luke. He's kind of touching the drift mark symbol on the map. This is the same map room where his brother Jace was trying to learn the High Valyrian a couple episodes ago, was struggling with it, and he was kind of questioning on whether or not he could ever do this, whether he could be a leader. And we've got the same thing here, right? Luke is questioning, the sea snake can sail, and I can't even be on a boat without getting seasick. How am I supposed to take over Driftmark? What am I supposed to do? They should have just let my uncle have it. Of course, his now stepdad / uncle. I'm not really sure what the relation is there with Daemon, but obviously he cut his head off, so that's not possible. And I found Rhaenyra to be very comforting to him, very much like we saw Lucerys do with her in the earlier episodes, right? She was questioning whether or not she could be the heir, and a couple times her father, as the king, acted as her father and really encouraged her that she can do this and let her know what's going on. And it seems like that's what Rhaenyra is basically doing here with Luke. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, she was basically being a mother, right? I think it's probably one of the first times we've ever seen her be a mom. It was a nice scene, with her, reassuring him that she wasn't ready when her dad named her the heir, but she decided to earn it, and she earned it, and it was a nice scene. She's kissing him on the head and stuff like that, and I'm a dad, so I'm like, oh.
Yeah. What I found interesting is, as the audience, we know that she doesn't know that she just let her father's dead. She doesn't know the king's dead, and she's trying to give this advice, and we're just kind of like, she's giving all this like motherly advice how she's like, she thinks she's ready to be queen now, and we're just waiting. Obviously, we all assume that Rhaenys is probably flying her dragon to go meet Rhaenyra to tell her at Dragonstone. We're just waiting for that to happen. So it's interesting to see the scene as a viewer, knowing what's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they just kind of jumped right into it. Just moments later with Rhaenys showing up and letting them know, letting know that her dad was dead. So we just kind of jumped right into it. It was the whole, like, the beginning. I actually really liked the beginning. I just they kind of went from soft, like we just talked about, to all right, it's time to rock and roll. And unfortunately, she got the unfortunate news about her dad. But That's when
Yeah,
you knew it was time to rock and roll, man.
exactly. The next scene, Rhaenys comes in, and of course, Rhaenyra, she just thinks that Princess Rhaenys is going to give news of the sea snake. Once he's gone, they hope for the best. They're wishing all is well. She does let her know that he is kind of awake and he is sailing. They think towards Dragonstone or Driftmark. They're not really sure yet, but they're going to reach out to him. And Rhaenys just breaks it down and says that Viserys is dead, and that they crowned Aegon. And I found it interesting because she starts to look like she's in pain, right? And she's like, kind of like almost having like a panic attack when she realizes, what do you mean Aegon is king? I was just there. Like, you got to imagine 2 or 3 days at most have passed, right? And she's like,
Right.
she's trying to process her dad's dead. And then already, without even reaching out to her, they've already crowned Aegon king after just having this, like, from her point of view, this heartwarming moment with Alicent and her father, reconfirming the dagger and all that stuff. But Jason, break down a little bit of Daemon's reaction here. What's his reaction with Rhaenys and about the king dying and Aegon?
Well, obviously, I mean, almost immediately decided that his brother was murdered, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
murdered, and you know, the green team or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, the Greens, the High Towers.
Yeah, they and bypassed everything and inserted Aegon on, gave him the crown or whatnot, in which he's obviously he's thinking traitor and stuff like that. So yeah, it was you could see it like in his face, like he had this look in his eye that I was like, oh, and then he came out and said, there's he was murdered, they slayed him. And I don't know, from that point it was like, you could tell that he was immediately thinking it's time to go to war.
Yeah, he's ready to jump into war now. Of course, we jump a little bit ahead, and Rhaenyra clearly is in pain. We're all kind of thinking like, whoa, what's happening? She's having the baby. Of course, one of the maesters or somebody says, well, it's not time. And she's like, well, it's coming. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. The baby is coming. And of course, she goes into the other room, and there's this back and forth scene where Daemon has now assembled I guess they want to call it the Black Council, maybe, because before it was the Green Council with the High Tower. So he's starting to get some of the leaders there in Dragonstone, and they're starting to look at the map, and they're starting to decide who should do what, who the allies are, and what they've got. And it's back and forth with him and Rhaenyra, and it's going into the room with the Rhaenyra because they can hear her screaming. Right.
Yeah, that was pretty odd.
And what were I'll give a little bit more context here, as it's cutting out to Luke and Jace, who are training out on the beach, and Jace is just punishing Luke, putting him down in the sand, telling him he's not ready, and of course this might be a little bit of foreshadowing going into the future. Now Rhaenys comes out and says, your mother needs you, she wants you right now. The boys go up into her room, and she's just again in excruciating pain. But one thing I've always thought was interesting about Rhaenyra, we saw this when she gave birth to Joffrey, where the queen demanded, she wanted to see if it looked like, Valerian or not. So she demanded to see the baby. And of course, the queen, Princess Rhaenyra walked all the way across King's, the Red Keep straight to the queen's chambers like a badass. Like she did not care. And you could see this is going on. So as she's having all this pain, she tells her two sons, their grandfather. Sometimes it's hard to know who's related and how here.
Yeah,
but he's the king is dead. They've made Aegon king, and she basically tells Jace that like, I don't want any decisions to be made until I'm done with this baby delivery, basically.
Right.
And she doesn't want anyone making demands. So she basically sends Jace she knows, I think she's smart enough to know that Daemon's probably seconds away from like starting war right now on her behalf. And rightfully so, coming from Daemon's side. I understand where he's coming from. But what's your take kind of in this scene as it's going back and forth and getting the kids involved?
Yeah, it was seeing them all at the table and hearing her screaming was just, you could see the looks on their face. They're like, oh my goodness, what's really going on? And you could, I don't know, it's almost like I couldn't tell if Daemon was annoyed by the screaming or if he was genuinely concerned. But that part was a little, it was the going back and forth. And then, like you said, with the kids going in there and her, telling them that, their grandfather died, and then, don't make any decisions and this and that. And then on the way out, it felt like she said, if I don't make it, you're the next in line, right before he walked out. And then that's when he walked down to go to the council with Daemon, obviously, and then that's where we pick up with
I like how Jace basically tells Daemon to stand down, and Daemon kind of looks at him. It's almost like he kind of respects what he's doing, but he's kind of hoping he can just ignore it, right? So he says, "Oh, well, it's good that you're here, young prince, because I need you to get on your dragon and patrol the skies." And Jace doesn't back down, right? He sticks right to it, and he tells him, "Did you hear what I said?" And Daemon does, at least on the surface, it does look like he backs down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next scene, I'm going to let you jump into this because Daemon has some ravens sent off to probably work on some allies. And then he tells Jace to follow him, and he's going to teach him about loyalty. Now, what happens in this next scene, Jason?
Yeah, he takes two members of the White Cloaks. It was Sir Laurent and the other. Well, I apologize, I can't remember that guy's name. I don't think I've ever seen him before.
Yeah.
Takes him out, and he gets them to basically re-swear their fealty to Rhaenyra under the threat of how do you put it? Dying dying while screaming or whatever. And they reaffirmed that that they were with Rhaenyra the whole time, and then that's when his big dragon comes up over the rock there, and essentially, it sounded like they were ready to, fulfill their oath anyway. But I think that was definitely a cool part for me, is that he kind of used the threat of being torched as a way to get them to re-swear.
Yeah, he basically. Yeah, I mean, the dragon was in a sense. I agree with you. I think they were already ready to confirm their loyalty for Rhaenyra. I think they were set there. So I don't know if the dragon was 100% needed, but I found it interesting that Daemon gives them a choice, right? He says, you can swear your oath anew to Rhaenyra right now, and we're good. Like, we're good to go. Or you can state that you're going to be with Aegon, which is fine, and I will have my dragon burn you right now. Or you can say you're going to be with Rhaenyra, and you're just going to, to save your ass, basically. But if you plan on saying that you're with Rhaenyra now, and then later turn into a traitor and turn your back on us, your death won't be so easy. I will make it excruciating. He's not going to give them a quick death. He's going to drag it out. And I think that was something that he just really wanted Jace to see the power that the dragons and how they really can push people around.
No, that's exactly how I looked at it. Is like he basically like you just said it, like, hey, we have all these dragons, right? I think at one point he was like, naming them off. We have all these dragons. Like, this is how we got our power essentially to begin with. Mm-hmm. And so let's keep on keeping on, so to speak, with the dragons. Yeah.
And they do, as this episode will go on, if you count all the dragons up that are alive, they do have more dragons. Right. Of course, Alicent's side, the Greens have Vhagar, which is going to be a problem. But there's also, for those that think Vhagar is the largest dragon, he is not. There is a dragon on Dragonstone without a rider. He's unclaimed, and that is the largest dragon in Westeros as of right now. Now, we cut in, of course, HBO in all of its glory. We've got to have our disgusting scene. It's either a disgusting sex scene or a disgusting just graphic scene. And this week's episode is Rhaenyra giving birth, I guess what you'd call a stillborn.
Mm-hmm.
And the bedside nurses, they keep begging her to let them help, and Rhaenyra's like, no, I just need to get this child out of me. I have heard that in the book she refers to it as a monster, and then there's something about possibly it's looks like a dragon that comes out of her. But remember, the book is technically supposed to be the words from someone's recollection of what happened back in the day, not actually like fact as the show is supposed to kind of be with George R.R. Martin. It gets kind of weird with this, but that's from what I understand it to be. And she pushes on her own, standing up, literally reaches her hand up and palms this baby out of her. And there's just blood everywhere, and it's flops down on the ground, and she kind of collapses, and all they show is legs. So now you're not really sure. They definitely give you that. At least I don't know what you think. I thought for a brief moment that like I'd hear crying, just the way because they showed the legs first, and they looked somewhat normal.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of pans obviously to the rest, and she picks up this stillborn, and she's holding it and just obviously distraught and super torn up. And I mean, I don't know if we need to really go into more detail when it goes into this, but that was kind of how it breaks down.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. That was a pretty wicked scene.
Yeah. And then of course you see Daemon walks in, he sees what's happened, he understands. Now, what I thought was interesting, the next scene they cut to, and you see the baby being wrapped up, obviously to be burned as the Targaryens do. But it's not the Silent Sisters that we've seen have been doing this in all the other episodes. Rhaenyra does this herself. And again, I thought that was just another testament of just what an... I mean, the performance Aemond D'Arcy puts into this character and what they do, I think they do a phenomenal job with this. And you just see this badass side of Rhaenyra again. That's just like, wow, this. I mean, she's not even letting the Silent Sisters do this. She's doing this herself.
Exactly. Yeah, that was. I don't know. To me, obviously she was distraught. You know what I mean? And but yeah, to see her doing it herself was kind of, I don't know. It was obviously an awesome scene, but that particular, or an awesome turn of events, but that particular scene was pretty. That was pretty strong, I think. Just because most people are not, going to do it themselves.
Yeah.
But she wanted to, and like you said, I mean, it was pretty badass. Yeah.
Now, of course, we leave that. We cut to, we're outside. They're burning the baby. You can see everything. I found it interesting. I didn't really see a dragon there somewhere up on. You just see it burning. So I'm not sure if if they did it to Dracarys or if they lit it themselves. And you have this somber moment. You kind of see everyone around. All the kids are there. Princess Rhaenys is there. And lo and behold, here comes Eric. Well, one of the Erics, one of the twins, the one that had left his twin brother. He was trying to get Rhaenys out of King's Landing. They got split up during the mob, everyone getting rushed to the dragon pit. And Jason, I'll let you break this down because this is a pretty significant moment. I want to remind everyone, we saw Aegon get crowned king. He has the crown of Aegon the Conqueror. He has the sword of Aegon the Conqueror. He does not have the crown that the last two kings have worn. And especially Lucerys, they didn't take that crown. They wanted to show dominance in King's Landing using Aegon the Conqueror's, king setup. So what do you see here with Eric as he comes up?
Yeah, so obviously Eric, I think it was Eric with an E, by the way. It was the E. Shows up and obviously, the guard immediately turns around and kind of confronts him a little bit. And it's clear that he's there for, a reason. And as he's walking up, I seen the satchel around his waist, and I immediately thought of, I don't have any idea why, but I immediately thought of the crown. I was like,
oh wow, that's a good call. I was not prepared.
I said, I seen it. And then as he he bends, he bends the knee essentially and starts, saying his oath or whatnot. And I was like, wow, they're about to crown her queen right here and there. And when she had that distraught look on her face, but you could tell um, when Daemon grabbed that crown and he looked at it, it was almost like for Daemon anyway, it was almost like I don't want to say a soft moment for him, but I think it was kind of a different side. Like he understood, like this is really about to happen. Where my niece wife is going is about to wear the crown that my brother and my brother wore, and he's staring at it. He sees the dragon. He's like, man, and then that's when he just kind of turns around and he, obviously walks up to her and puts a crown on her head, and then when everybody bowed and got down on the knee, the look on her face was, I don't know, for me, it was like, man, this is actually a pretty awesome moment for me, because I think it finally hit her, like, damn, like this is it,
Yeah, I agree.
Even though she knows that, there's technically a king, that was sworn. Um, she's ready and she's about to be the queen. And I think this whole moment for me is seeing Rhaenys in the back and standing there with the look on her face. To me, her whole, I don't know, I gotta be honest, for the first little while of this show, I didn't know what to think about her. But now I think she's really coming into, like, you could tell she's proud to see essentially a queen that's in charge, so to speak, because obviously she was up for it and didn't get it. So but yeah, so I don't know, for me, that seeing her stand back there and everybody kneel, and then the look on Rhaenyra's face when she was crowned was just, for me, in that scene, it was pretty sweet.
I'll give my couple of thoughts real quick on this scene. When Damien was first taking the crown, I had reminiscence of when he had the messenger come to the narrow sea and give him the message from his brother, and he beat the living shit out of him. I was like,
Right.
I was like, please, Damon, just Eric is here to be on your side. You need swords, bro. Don't kill this guy.
Don't beat him with the crown.
Yeah, please. I was terrified of that, but I think that's a great call. You're calling out Rhaenys. I love that you bring that up because she still is under the pretense that she truly believes. Well, she's angry about her grandkids that are Strongs. She's angry that she believes Rhaenyra and Daemon killed her son. I mean, we know that he's alive. The audience knows he's alive, but they don't know he's alive. And but I do agree with you. Let the past be what it is. I think she finally looks at this moment and she sees Rhaenyra as a good woman and a mom, and that she might be at least open to the idea that Rhaenyra might be what's best for the realm. And I agree with you. I don't think we had seen that before. Now, the next scene, you alluded to this in your opening and what you thought about the episode. I thought this was cool. You see them, you have all these candles, right, on this kind of griddle looking thing, and they're lighting all these candles, and you see them lining up the swords, and it's like, okay, they're getting ready for war. And Rhaenyra, you see the camera's panning, and she's kind of walking in. She's probably going back to the map room, and you get these, at least for me, I had these shades of Daenerys as they're getting around back in the old Game of Thrones of how they're about to prepare, how they're going to take King's Landing. And so I know that's where she's walking to. And then all of a sudden you see these candles get pushed on the floor. And Jason, I'll let you take, I know you're super excited about this. I'll let you take us through. What is the purpose of all these candles?
Yeah, so they put the candles go underneath this big table, obviously the dragon glass table, and through the magic of fantasy LEDs, i.e. the candles, it just made it come to life, and it was in a giant map of Westeros, and I loved the thing. That thing was pretty awesome. Just the way that kind of came to life and glowed, and then that's when they start bringing out their trinkets and their little I read somebody call them tchotchkes. If you know that,
Yeah.
that word,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, anyway. So yeah, so just to see those on there and just to see that map glowing and just the whole, honestly, I like the whole room. It's huge,
Mhm.
got the fireplace with all, anyway. No, that was, yeah, I love that table. That thing is awesome.
It was really cool how it lit everything up. It really,
Mhm.
like you said, it was really awesome. Now, of course, she steps in with the guards, and Damon says, "Your Grace." And I found this a little bit funny. I don't know exactly 100% what the purpose of, but he says, "Your Grace," and she starts to walk towards the map table. Obviously, we're gonna have this meeting, and the four guards like start to step with her, and she
Yeah,
turns around and looks at him like, "Bro, I'm gonna
it's
be right
fine.
there. Leave me alone."
Yeah,
Like.
yeah, it's
And
fine.
they
It's
just
fine.
have they don't even look at her. They just have this like, okay, we'll wait here. So I thought that little moment was funny. Now, of course, Rhaena walks right up to her, hands her a glass of wine. Obviously, she's doing what she has done for Princess Rhaenys for the last, her handmaiden, which is what Rhaenyra used to do for her father all those years. So I thought it
Mhm.
was interesting. She looks right at Rhaena and says, come with me. Basically, okay, you handed me the wine. Great. Come to the table. And then she looks at Damon's other daughter and also acknowledge her, tells her to come to the table. She looks at her grandmother, Princess Rhaenys, and she nods. And they go in, and she just says, "What is our standing?" And then it's just the episode really, in my opinion, takes off here because all these guys are just, this is what we have. This is how many soldiers we have. These are who our allies are going to be. This is what we need to have. I mean, I was like, holy cow, like slow. And they're all, basically everyone in there is ready to go to war. We're with
Right.
you. This is treason. We need to go take out the high towers and end this blasphemy. So let's count up all of our allies. And it's almost like a game of, who can have the largest numbers? Which allies are we going to have to? Who's on the fence? Who do we think we're going to have to turn? And it's funny because the whole time Rhaenyra is just kind of a little bit like her dad. Sometimes, at least initially, I find her to be a little naive because she's like, well, what are you talking about? All these people already bent the knee to me years ago. And they're like, well, that's not really how it works.
Right. Yeah.
So essentially, everything looks like it's going to come down to they don't know where Driftmark's going to go. They don't know where Rhaenys and the Sea Snake are going to go. Rhaenys is basically has been urging the Sea Snake, Valeris, to be neutral. Like, we have the largest fleet. We don't have to pick a side. We can be neutral. Let them deal with this shit, and we'll just stand off. And Rhaenys, that's what she said to Rhaenyra at the beginning of this episode. I'm here. I'm not picking a side. I just thought that you deserve to know they're coming for you. Um,
Yeah.
so it basically looks like it's coming down to the Baratheons and the Starks, which I think is a little bit funny. I think there's someone else that they throw in there, but primarily these two seem to be the most important. She even calls out Rhaenys and says, "Well, what of Driftmark?" And she says, basically, I don't speak for my husband, but it does again look like they're going to be neutral because that's what she has always urged her husband to stay. She doesn't believe in Jason Luke, obviously, is legitimate heirs, and you're not really sure what they're going to do. So, of course, Rhaenyra just gives the generic, well, we pray for your husband's safe return and we hope for your support. And she moves on, and Daemon's just kind of like, you're just going to let that slide? And again, you just go right back to this, and it's nothing but a bunch of men ready to go to war. I think that's really the theme of this whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I mean, yeah, they were ready to jump in and, cut heads off and do their thing. And, I think definitely, and we'll find out, I guess. Rhaenyra is you said kind of maybe naive, you threw that out there, but at the same time, she's almost like that calming, to me anyway. Seems like she's more of like trying to be that calming influence, and that
Yeah.
could be, you're right though. That could be the because she's naive and she just don't know what to, don't know what to do at this point.
Yeah, and then one of the maesters, somebody basically points out and says, well, it's really going to come down to the dragons. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to the dragons. And like you said earlier, Daemon just starts rattling off all the dragons, talking about who's what and who's there. Even Rhaenys gets a little bit upset. She's like, what are you counting my, she kind of looks at him like,
Right.
I didn't say my dragon was at your disposal. But he basically gets to the point of it is that the number that they have is essentially 13-4, I think, in dragon count. But Rhaenyra does make a very good point. She says, but none of our dragons have been to war. And obviously, I don't know a ton about dragons and what their fighting capabilities are, except for the little bit that we have seen here in Game of Thrones. But none of those in Game of Thrones have been to war. They seem to do pretty good, and except for when they fought the White Walkers. So again, it just seems like Rhaenyra is hesitant just to jump right into war. You know, I think at one point, I don't know if it's now or a little bit later, but she does talk about not wanting to rule over a kingdom that's completely ashen, which is funny enough because that's very similar to what Daenerys Targaryen said until she decided to burn the shit out of it and try to rule over a kingdom of ashes. This next scene we jump into I thought was interesting because you've got Otto rolling up to Dragonstone again, very similar to, must have been the second episode where he sees Daemon. Daemon's trying to, declare he's going to take a new wife and he's going to have a child and he should be the heir and all that. And I thought it was funny because at that point, I was like, man, Otto and these guys are about to get killed because Daemon's got a dragon. And of course, the person that swoops in to save Otto and talks shit to her uncle is Rhaenyra. And again, in this exact same scene, Rhaenyra swoops in on her dragon, lands right behind Otto, but instead of defending Otto, she's pinning Otto in. And it's this interesting, just like we talked about, Rhaenys could have ended a lot of stuff. She could have really done some damage here. She could have killed Otto and these guards, really made a statement. Part of me was just hoping, again, I was just screaming at the TV, Dracarys, I hate Otto. I think he's horrible. He's a pimp for his daughter. Yeah. He's absolutely disgusting father. But I thought it was interesting that in this arguing back and forth, she lets Otto deliver the message. That's from Alicent. And the thing that I thought was interesting is he hands her a page from a book that they had ripped out in the first episode of this entire series. And it was to remind her that it's her childhood friend. And Otto leans into that, but it's almost like I feel that Alicent is genuinely sincere. But Otto seems to be like Daemon and he wants war too. So he says it, I don't know if you got this feeling, but he definitely says this in a way, this whole message and everything that Alicent sent him to deliver, I felt like he said it in a way that he was trying to poke the bear in a sense. He never made it seem sincere from Alicent at all. It seemed like a game.
Well, everything he does is a game. So it makes perfect sense that he would do that. And I agree. I think you're right. I think he was trying to, trying to poke the bear, like you said. And the whole time, the whole time I'm like, there's nowhere for them to go. So let's, I thought, man, is Otto going to get roasted right now? Please.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. Like I said, it's just, trying to, deliver the terms and stuff like that. It's just the way he did it. It was just, I don't like that guy.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting is he, he says all your sons will be given high honors in court. Somebody will be the squire for the king, the younger Aegon, and all this stuff. And before Rhaenyra can even give an actual answer, Daemon just speaks up and is like, I'd rather feed my kids to the dragons than let them be under your drunken waste of a son, grandson king, and that it's a joke. And they start talking. And Otto, I thought it was interesting that we were already talking about the Tullys, the Starks, and the Baratheons, about how they're on the fence. No one really knows where they're going to be. And the pardons that Otto's offering to all the knights there, to all the Targaryens there, he openly tells them they're going to visit the other three houses, and they're offering the same. They're sending ravens. They're offering the same thing to them for Stark, Tully, and Baratheon to change their allegiance to Aegon. And Daemon again is just looks like he's ready to go. And Otto does try to point out, we understand that we all bent the knee to you. The succession was supposed to go to you, but you gotta be realistic. It changed the day that your father had a son, and you should have known this the entire time. And it's crazy. After all this, she rips off the hand of the king pin. So I'm like, did they just have like 30 of these in stock? Are they ready at all times?
Right.
But she's she's very angry. She tosses this thing over the side.
It
Daemon
was
again.
actually pretty funny.
Yeah, Daemon again. Everybody's ready to fight, but once again, she, after getting this note, reading the letter, seeing everything, she looks at Otto and says, "I will give my answer in the morn." And I was like, for a second, at least in this moment, I thought, okay, maybe Rhaenyra is just like, fuck it, like, I don't want to see my sons die. This war is stupid. This war is pointless. We're just gonna break everything apart. And what's the point? What are your thoughts to this whole thing? Where do you think Rhaenyra stands at this point?
Well, I guess to back up a little bit, when he basically, when Otto said that, it was the Stark, Tully, and Baratheons, yeah, where they were considering the king's terms, meaning he basically kind of gave, a sign that he hadn't nailed him down yet. And so what I thought was, okay, well, he hasn't nailed him down yet. She notices that and says, okay, well, I'll give you my answer tomorrow. Meaning, and obviously, as we keep talking about it, meaning, I'm going to take my crack at him too.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I got from that.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you that. I'm definitely with you there on that. Now we jump into the next scene. It goes right back into the council meeting. And this is where Rhaenyra talks about not wanting to rule over a kingdom of Ash and Bone. They're arguing what we're going to do. Is the queen actually going to accept the terms? And he says to one of the lords, Lord Bladamos or something like that. I'm not sure his actual name here, but she says, "What is my actual duty as queen?" And they just kind of look. Lord Bartimos, I think is what his name is. And she says, "What's my duty as queen of the realm? Is it to ensure peace and tranquility and all this great stuff in the realm? Or is it to sit on the Iron Throne no matter the cost?" And a lot of Game of Thrones the original series was all about the power. It was no matter the cost, I need to be on the Iron Throne. The Iron Throne above all. Now, what we've learned in this is Rhaenyra believes she should be queen to keep everything peaceful in the realm, ready to fight this threat, as we know as the White Walkers later on. That's what the dagger is. That's what the dagger's for. That's all this. And Daemon is not on board. But of course she doesn't say that. Daemon's not on board. They have a little spat, and the now Queen Rhaenyra on this side basically tells everyone, clear the room, get out. And her and Daemon are going to have this out. And I find it interesting as they start to talk back and forth. He says that your duty as queen should be to crush the rebellion. You need to squeeze everybody out that's going to be in this. And it's all about the Iron Throne. And she says, my oath reaches beyond our personal ambitions. And of course, in this, she's trying to allude to this dagger in this prophecy, the Song of Ice and Fire. And Daemon says what? And I think for the first time, she realizes that she was really chosen by her father, because even his own brother doesn't know this story, that it really is only supposed to be passed down to the next heir. And he's talking about this dream and all this stuff. And of course, Daemon flips out and starts choking her. And basically to prove a point that power is what controls the realm, not dreams and all these illusions. But it's because he really has no idea what she's talking about. I mean, he has zero clue what she's talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, when that scene went down, and you could tell he's got that look on his face, like, what are you talking about? And then, he choked her, which I gotta be honest, that was a pretty wild scene for me too.
Hmm.
All this, a couple scenes we've talked about, and that one was probably unfortunately the most tame, and that one was pretty wild too. The look on her face kind of kind of got me there, but yeah. So I mean, he it was obvious that his brother never told him the story, right? And so in my, I think he didn't trust him. Um, and he didn't think of his brother as a true heir, um, to the throne, and just it was a big moment for me anyway. And I think that's when she, like you said, she finally realized that, wow, like I'm, yes, I was chosen. I was chosen for this.
Yeah. Um, I agree with you 100%. I mean, it definitely, you see this eye opening moment for her. Now, of course, we cut to the next scene, and Lord Corlys has made it to Dragonstone. He's asleep. He's in bed. He's resting. And I thought it was funny. He kind of wakes up with a little chuckle. He sees his wife, sees Princess Rhaenys sleeping on the chair, waiting on, watching over him. And he basically wakes her up saying, "I've had men whipped for falling asleep on their post." And she wakes up, and she's not really in a playful mood. She's kind of more angry, like, "You left me when I needed you." And they
Where
have
have you
this
been for
little,
the last?
yeah, they have this little back and forth. Like, he felt like he lost everything. He lost his sons and all this stuff. And she reminds him, "No, you didn't lose everything. We lost everything." And it's like this, like, oh. And then she's like, "Oh, and by the way, your brother's dead too."
Right.
But I thought that Corliss took this rather well, right? Because she explained it honestly. She said, "Your brother was ambitious and ran his mouth to Viserys and said that your grandsons are not your grandsons." And of course, Corliss knows they're not. They've already had this discussion. He cares about the name and all that. We've talked about this before. But
Mhm.
he takes it rather well. He's like, "Well, my brother always had these ambitions. He's an idiot." And I was
Right.
like, "Oh, I guess he just was ready to move on." But it did break him. It did break Corliss. And I found it interesting. We talked about this a little bit, alluding to how Rhaenys has always pushed him to stay neutral, stay neutral, stay neutral, and he never wants to. But this was like the final straw, I think. He felt like, okay, I've got my granddaughters, got my grandsons. We're done. Like, let's just go back to Driftmark. You win. He's telling his wife she wins. I'm going to do what you've asked all these years. And we're out. We're done. We're staying out of this. We're just going to be neutral. We have the largest fleet. No one's going to mess with us. Of course, they have dragons to cover their fleet. So, it is an easy family to stay neutral. But Jason, I'll let you take over here. What happens here that changes the storyline? What does Rhaenys do?
Oh, well, obviously, he admitted that she was right all along, which was, I thought was kind of funny, actually. Um, so
we
basically, he
should
told
all
her,
we should all just listen to our women. We already know that.
exactly. So, um, yeah. So basically, he said, again, he admitted, like, hey, essentially, it's let's get out of here. But Rhaenys points out, kind of what we already know, right? That Rhaenyra is pretty good at being a queen so far. She's exercising restraint, I think is what she said it, or how she said it. And then she's, kind of wants unity. And she has, I mean, really, she has the best interest. She thinks she has the best interest at heart for the realm. And I think I think Rhaenys, that's what she, I think that's why, because every time you see her standing behind Rhaenyra, she's got that glowing look on her face as she's staring at her, like she's proud, so to
Yeah,
speak. You know what I mean? That,
especially
hey,
right
there's a
now. Yeah,
yep, right, especially right now, and she's the queen, and she knows, right, because she wanted to do that a long time ago. So I think once she explained to him that, hey, I know I've been preaching, let's just stay out of it and go home. All these years, let's just live out our life and be happy at home. I think she realized that, this truly was the best thing going forward, was to get on board with Rhaenyra.
Yeah, I found it interesting. The words here that the writing in this scene I thought was really good. Corlys basically says that girl destroys everything she touches. She was complicit in our son's death, and Rhaenys immediately cuts her off and says that girl is the only thing holding the realm together at present. Like you
Yeah.
said, all these men in this room are ready to go to war, and she is, like you said, holding restraint and trying to listen and trying to get all the information and deciding that maybe the best course of action is not to go into war. We need to sit back, let things simmer down a little bit, and maybe talking is the best way. And of course, this point they switch back to the map room, and you see them going at it again. All the lords are talking, and it's just repetitive, right? It doesn't really feel like they're getting anywhere because Rhaenyra's not going to go. Corlys comes in, and you kind of, as a viewer, right, you already assume he's going to take Rhaenyra's side, but he doesn't just jump right in and say, I'm with you. He wants to know the status. He wants to know what's going on. I thought it was interesting as he starts to talk, he looks around the room. He sees there now. He sees his two granddaughters take the side of his grandsons. He's also probably just learned from Rhaenys. You got to imagine at this point he's been up to speed that Rhaenys has agreed to promise, Daemon's daughters are going to marry Rhaenyra's sons and all their betrothed. So he sees this like everything he believes in and the family staying together is happening. And the granddaughters look genuinely happy. And the grandsons look genuinely happy. Everybody is where they want to be. So he goes through this whole spiel with Rhaenyra and he wants to know. And then he eventually, she talks about having this support of all these houses. And he says, I hope that I have your support too. And he goes, like I said, he goes into his spiel and he talks about having the stepstones. Like they conquered the stepstones just like him and Daemon did before with the Crab King, I think was his name. Except this time, instead of just conquering it, he was smart, which is what they should have done the other 1,000 times they've probably fought over this. They set up a full garrison and a blockade and they control the narrow sea. Like they have it. Like no one's moving in there to stop the trade routes. So they can basically pinch off King's Landing. And he also looks right at Rhaenyra and he says, you'll have the full support of our fleet and house. And right there was the first time I thought, okay, Rhaenyra's ready now. Like she's ready to really make a move because all of a sudden it was like the hope. Because I think that if Corlys, who she knows has kind of been against her sons, she's not stupid. She's not playing naive like her father did, like Viserys did. But him pledging full support, I think, changes the game. And I think it helps her believe in herself too. What do you think?
No, you're right. You're right. And then I think just kind of, because Rhaenys kind of snuck in there and while he was explaining how, you have you have our fleet, you have full support. And then when she snuck in there and said, yeah, I'll even patrol the sea by air on my dragon. That I thought it was pretty cool actually, but it was like a light bulb, for me anyway. It was like, she's there. It is like it's getting bigger and bigger, and now she has, essentially one of her her biggest ally has her back. So everything's kind of falling into place.
Yeah, no, I found it interesting. Corlys is very confused that he again falls right in line with the men immediately, even after hearing everything from his wife. What do you mean we're still not going to war yet? What's happening? And she's like, if war is to happen, it will not be by my hand first. Like basically she's like, I'm not gonna cast the first blow.
Right.
But I at least need to find out who my allies are. So she eventually says, okay, let's send ravens to Winterfell, Eyrie, Storm's End. I need to find out where everyone is. And Jace speaks up out of place, which was funny to me because if you remember back in the first episode or maybe the second, it's either the first or second, I can't remember. They want to send some people to talk to Daemon on Dragonstone. And Rhaenyra spoke up while she's serving the wine. It was like, send the Dragon Riders. We can do this. Or, or the Crab King, I think, is actually what was going on still. Send the dragons. We'll end this. And Viserys was very like, no, absolutely not. You're not going. And he kept trying to explain to her why she couldn't go as a child. So we have the exact same thing happen with her oldest son. Jace says, send us. Dragons are faster than ravens. And, we'll get the word out. We'll find out who the allies are. We'll secure these allies and we'll move on. And you see the hesitance in Rhaenyra, but Corlys speaks up and says the prince is right. And it's almost like she doesn't want to do this. And I don't know if she's calling back to how frustrated she was that her father would never let her do anything, but it's like she's seeing her sons as men for the first time. And I think she's doing this a little faster than her father did with her, to see her as a full-grown woman and to make correct decisions. And obviously, I would say Viserys was right. I mean, look, she went off to a brothel and she hooked up with, Kristen Cole, and we're in the situation we are in now because of the stuff that she did that she thought she was grown enough to do. But maybe she did that in spite of her father not believing in her as a grown woman. So she obviously takes a different path here. She agrees to let her sons go, but now she brings them out as they're getting ready to get on their dragons to ride. Now she tells Jace to go to Winterfell, and I think he's going to go to Winterfell and see the Tullys as well. But and she tells Luke, which is the youngest, you're just going to go to Storm's End. You're going to see Baratheon. It's a shorter ride. It'll be easier. You'll be in and out and come right back. Now she brings them outside. Jason, break us down. What is the purpose of them having outside? What is she trying to get through to them?
For me, it was like, she just wanted to bring them out, and kind of, for me, it was like the gravity of it all, essentially get them away from, the inside, and just kind of, talk to them.
Testosterone that was going on at the table.
Exactly. Yeah. So, get them away from all the warmongers, essentially. And she made him swear that, you're not going to fight. You're going there as messengers only, and you're not going to fight. And she made him swear on she called it the Eyes of Seven. I assume it's like a Bible. But yeah, she made him swear, and they put their hands on there right away and did their thing. But yeah, it was definitely, I could, it was almost like another mother-son moment a little bit. He even said, yes, mother. And then he corrected himself when he said, my grace. But yeah, it was kind of like another moment like that for me. Just get them away from all the, like I said, warmongering adults, and like you said, all the testosterone, and just get them out there where they're comfortable with their mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's interesting. You see them fly off. Now, of course, we go in. We start hearing this lullaby being sang, and we see Daemon going down into some sort of crypt. Now, I immediately assume he's probably going to find one of the unclaimed dragons at this point. I have not seen the lore, watched any of the spoilers or Easter eggs to know exactly what dragon this is, but he goes down, he's singing this thing, and he finds this dragon that is massive down there, clearly unclaimed. I mean, this thing looks scarred everywhere. It was like he went and just... I mean, I would have to guess that this dragon has been in some sort of battle at some point. It looks like he had burns all over him. And I really liked this as he kept singing. The dragon breathes all this fire, and you see them looking at each other's eyes. They did this a couple times in Game of Thrones, of course. I think with Tyrion, when he goes and gets one of the dragons, you see the reflection of Daemon in the dragon's eye, and you see the reflection of the dragon in Daemon's eye. So I thought the cinematography here and how they shot this really set the scene. But I'm guessing really all I have to pull from this is he's just trying to get another dragon that he can maybe claim. I don't know if he would ride this one or what's going on. Do you have anything to add on this?
I did do some just kind of read on that.
Sure.
And from what I read anyway, they think it's likely a dragon named Vermithor. I don't know how you say it, Vermithor. It was written by King Jaehaerys.
Okay.
They think that preceded, Viserys. So they think that maybe that this is going to be that particular dragon. And they did say it's really old. So it looked old and war torn, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely did, and they cut away from it pretty quick. So obviously that's a teaser for
Hmm.
going into next season at some point. I mean, they'll go back to that. Now, of course, we see cut right to the skies. Jace is flying in. He's about to land for the Baratheons. It's very stormy, right? It's crazy. You've got the guards out front. He jumps off his dragon. Now, as he jumps off his dragon, he hears something, so he looks over to the side. And who does he see, Jason?
Yeah, the another huge dragon. Um,
Vagar is there.
Vagar. Not sure how
Which,
he missed it flying in, but
yeah, I mean this,
okay.
and again, it shows you because he brought his dragon. He lands right there by the door, and it really shows again the scale of Vagar. I mean, he would not have fit in
Yeah,
that
no.
opening that he landed his dragon, and you can see Jace, or sorry, not Jace. Luke is already feeling nervous. You can see the nervousness that he has. I'm sure he knows that Aemond is there already. Why else would Vagar be there? He's not completely stupid. He walks in, and of course he looks over, and him and Aemond already make eye contact right away. And it starts this theme. It brings back this theme about how everything's about the children, right? A lot of the parents and adults have kind of moved aside, and they could probably settle this. If this was just Daemon, Alicent, Rhaenyra, Corlys, Rhaenys, if they could make all the decisions without all the other outside influences, and a lot of the way that their children behave is because of their actions in the past, right? The
Mhm.
children are just a reflection of them. So they've got all this hate, but the adults have kind of moved on, but the kids have not. Uh, of course, Luke is the one that caused Aemon to lose his eye. And one thing I found interesting, and I did look this up because I thought this was a recurring theme. So I tried to find a little bit of information. I got this from Screen Crush. It kind of confirmed it. I went back through and watched all the episodes, all his spoiler Easter egg episodes from episode 1 on, and he talked about how this series seems to be all about the number 2 because you've got tons of twins, whether it's the Erics, the Lannisters, the twin girls from Daemon, and then you've got the second. It's always about the second sons. Otto is a second son. Daemon is a second son. Luke is a second son. Aemond is a second son, and all 4 of these guys specifically, Corlys again, a second son. They're all feel like, and even Larys, the little weasel lurking around King's Landing, is a second son. They all feel like they have to prove something. Nothing is given to them. They're second rate. They're afterthoughts. So they've got to go above and beyond and prove. And sometimes it's with their fighting. Sometimes it's with their words. Sometimes it's with their just something that always it's constant back and forth. They can't be content with where they are. And we saw this at the very beginning with Otto and Daemon, and it is just trickled down all the way through. So something to relate here in this. Now, of course, Luke basically goes through and tells Baratheon exactly what his mom wants. Now, it's funny that Baratheon keeps referring to her, Lord Boros just keeps referring to her as the princess. And Luke keeps correcting him and saying, she's the queen.
Right.
And I do give Boris a little credit here. He entertains this. He seems to be, he wants to hear the whole thing. I did find it funny that he gets the message and he can't read it in typical Baratheon form, so he has to get the maester to come in to read it because he genuinely, like, you couldn't have read that if he wanted to, right? That's what you're supposed to take away from here. Aemond's keeping his mouth shut. He's just standing over there. He's by one of the daughters of Lord Boros. Now, at the end, when he figures out what this is, what does Boros say to Luke, Jason? What does he basically throw right out there?
Oh, well, he was obviously super offended by the letter's tone, I guess you want to call it, and he points out that essentially, Aegon offered to marry Aemond to one of the Boros daughters, and it's something that Luke essentially cannot match. and basically dismisses him pretty rudely, actually.
Yeah, he
I
says,
thought,
I'm already betrothed to someone. I
right,
can't do
yeah,
that even if I want to. Like,
cannot do it, right? And so he basically, yeah, he just essentially shoot him away. Um, which again, after watching Game of Thrones, it seems like this family, they're just they're just all kinds of belligerent and probably alcoholics, and
yeah, yeah,
and just kind of rude overall people. And it's funny
absolutely.
too because as soon as he started talking, it reminded me of the king from Game of Thrones,
Yeah, exactly.
which obviously many generations down, but it's like, wow, they haven't changed one bit,
Yeah,
or they didn't change one
yeah,
bit.
they did not change that at all. Now, I find it interesting is Luke tries to he does listen to his mother's words. He says, "I'm just here as the messenger. I will take your message to the queen." Well, he says again. He says, "Princess." He reminds him. Luke, reminds him it's the queen, and he's trying to leave. And of course, Aemon finally speaks up. He's not having it. He basically tells Luke, I want you to cut your eye out. He throws a dagger down to the ground. He pulls his eye patch back, and you finally see the stone that he has in his eye, the sapphire stone that he put in his eye. And I mean, it's funny how Aemon's very calm. He's almost like Daemon like, right? As we saw earlier in the series. That yeah, just take your eye, and I'll take it back to my mom, and you can go about your way. I'll even let you cut it out yourself.
Right. That was, which I gotta say, putting a sapphire in there was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess if you're gonna, but why wear the patch at that point? Like, why wouldn't you just rock the sapphire so everybody knows you have it in there? I don't
It's
know.
almost like he wanted to make this reveal. He knew it was coming.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, like you said, obviously Luke wasn't having nothing to do with it. He just wanted to leave. He made an oath, to his mom, and he just wanted to leave. Um, and Aemon was not having it. And I thought for a split second, I thought, all right, something bad's going to happen here.
Yeah.
And then of course, Little Burrow stepped in and said, "This is not happening on my floor. Sorry."
Yeah, I thought that
uh,
was interesting by him. If he's already, I thought I'm with you. I thought, okay, something bad's about to happen, because if he's already basically telling Luke, I'm aligning with Aegon. Sorry.
right.
I kind of thought he would just stay out of it, and if Aemon was going to do what he wanted to do, he just not defend Luke. But no, he tells his guards to let Luke get out to his dragon and go. Of course, the storm there is just absolutely crazy, and Luke gets on his dragon. He starts to fly away, and you just knew this wasn't going to be easy for Luke, right? Yeah. I mean, with the music ramping up, I think everybody just knows. And of course, as he's flying away into the storm, he's constantly looking over his shoulder. And Jason, I'll let you kind of lead us into this. I know you already look like you're just raring to go. You're hyped up about this scene already. But what happens from here?
Yeah, so you could see as soon as he walked out to his dragon was a little uneasy already, and so I thought, well, obviously the storm, because like you said, the storm was insane, and then maybe the dragon was obviously a little nervous, I guess, being that there was a monster behind him. While he was inside, the dragon was essentially chilling out in the yard with a monster dragon across the wall. But yeah, he got on, and you could just tell the whole thing was uneasy. Like, he was nervous. The dragon was, fighting through the rain, and
Mhm. Now his
and
dragon is Arax, and you know, like you said, he definitely was nervous. Now Luke did a good job. He got him to focus. He calmed him down
mhm.
right at the beginning. He's saying the Valerian to him, and the High Valerian, and it seems like it's going to go. But as he's flying, what do we see next?
Yeah, as he's flying, you keep looking, right? As he's looking back, and you're watching the screen, and you're like, "Oh man, when's Aemon going to come up on his dragon and essentially go Top Gun on him?"
Yeah,
And then when he soared over him, the camera kind of panned up, and you saw him like just soar over him. It was actually pretty pretty cool scene for me. But when he soared over him, I thought, oh, here we go. This is we're about to have a dogfight with a couple dragons, and again, it's still poor Luke, right? I mean, the kid is what 14, I think is what his mom said, and he's young and he's on a young, inexperienced dragon, I guess, about to come, face to face with, I guess Aemon's what, his uncle? Yeah, his uncle. Right?
Cousin? No, yeah,
Cousin,
uncle, because they would be
cousin.
Rhaenyra's brothers.
Right, Rhaenyra's
He
brother.
was
Right.
Rhaenyra's brother, so uncle. Yeah.
So he's about to come face to face with his uncle, who obviously wants to, harm him, and then a very, very large dragon who could probably shoot him out of the sky if he really wanted to. So yeah, as they're flying around and they come in contact, and and Aemond with his little, what do you want to call it? His evil laugh.
Yeah,
you can kind of hear it
it's
echoing
almost like
through the
evil
sky.
queen laugh. Yeah. I thought it was interesting because I agree with you. You said something very important that I think is important to this scene, this long scene that gets shot. Aemond is in Vhagar. He's clearly 100 times the size of Aerax, it seems like, at least the way they shoot this. And well, we know he's larger. And you said something where you said he could clearly take out Aerax and Luke anytime he wanted to, which tells you he just wants to scare him. I truly believe at this point, Aemond has no intention of actually hurting Luke. He just wants to scare the living crap out of him. You got to remember, Luke was a part of the runt that, laughed at him and gave him the pig as the dragon. This is, Aemond's finally on the side where he can be the bully now. Luke is someone that bullied Aemond when they were younger. Unfortunately, he probably just following along with his brother and Aegon. But, Aemond doesn't forget that. And I think he knows that he has all the power, like you said. He just wants to scare him. Now, I thought Luke did a great job. Like, you bring up a lot of Top Gun references, but he flies his dragon down into the canyon. And it kind of looks like he's going to be able to get away. Like I said, you see, you hear the laughing, you see all this stuff. Now, as Luke is flying around and Aemond is yelling out about owing a debt, and he's kind of yelling at him, all of the sudden, it seems like you hear Luke yelling, "No, Aerax, serve me." I mean, he is screaming at his dragon. But what does his dragon do instead, Jason?
Yeah, he essentially lost control of Aerax, and Aerax had enough essentially of getting chased by a big dragon, and he hit Aemon's dragon in the face with fire.
Yeah, he essentially went rogue and breathed fire on Vhagar, and immediately you see. I found it interesting because you see that as Luke is trying to regain control of his dragon, Aemond starts to lose control of his dragon. He's already screaming at Vhagar, "No! Didn't affect us. Yeah. Serve me!" And you're like, okay, something bad is clearly about to happen. And we get this moment of where Luke starts to regain control of his dragon, and they get up to the clear skies. It was like a plane getting out of the storm, and all of a sudden it was like this just peace and serenity. And I thought, for a small second, I kind of thought, okay, he's in the clear. He got away. He's probably higher than Vhagar might be able to fly because he's smaller. But Jason, go ahead and bring us home with this scene.
Well, like you said, I thought he's up above the storm. They're cruising. I thought, okay, this is it. They got out. They're in the clear. Maybe Aemond just he had his fun. It's time to go home. And that's definitely not what happened. Vhagar came up out of nowhere and just chomped him in half. The dragon, Luke, literally bit them in half and just tossed them out and just kept flying.
And just as you heard Luke call out to Aerax, "No," during this whole thing, Aemond is screaming at Vhagar to not do this.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that they have no control over these dragons. And it kind of brings you back to the beginning where Viserys tells Rhaenyra, it's a facade. It's fake. We don't really control the dragons. Everyone just thinks we control the dragons.
Right.
And I think for the first time, you really see this happen here. Now, as Aemond looks back and he sees the dragon, like you said, cut in half and Luke is gone and they're just falling back to earth. Aemond definitely has this look on like, oh shit,
I messed up.
yeah, I messed up. And you got to imagine at this point, Aemond is probably trying to decide like, this is it. Like he either has to own this or whimper down. And we're not really, as of this point, we can imagine what we think he's going to do, but we don't really know what he's going to do. But you definitely see a look on Aemond of not necessarily like, haha, I won, I'm a badass. He has a look of fear, and I'm not sure what just happened. And for us as the audience, we definitely know that these dragons have a mind of their own, and if they want to do what they want to do, there's nothing anyone can do to stop them.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, if you know anything about animals, I mean, people will bring, they'll go out and find baby wolves, in the wild, and they'll raise them as dogs in their house. 99% of the time, they're gonna do something that a wild animal would do, even though you've tried to domesticate it. And that's immediately what I thought of with the dragons. And then even in Game of Thrones, she lost control of was it one or two?
Yeah, Drogon. She couldn't control Drogon, right. Especially with that. Remember, they're feeding, and they always needed to eat, and she was terrified. She didn't understand why the dragon would just kill on its own without her saying.
Yeah. And I immediately thought of that in particular when it came to that scene. Just they both lost control, and they both put the dragons in positions that was just flying through thunderstorms, and you're having a dog fight in the air with essentially kids on your back. You know what I mean? And then when Arax shot him with the fire, Vhagar was like, "No, we're not. You're mine."
Yeah, he definitely wasn't having it, and Vhagar knew he could do what he wanted. Now I'm going to bring us to the final scene, which I thought was really well done. It was really well shot. It brings you full circle from episode 1. You see they're back around the table, the map there in Dragonstone, and you see we kind of follow as Daemon walks by everyone slowly. Not a lot's going on. He looks very somber, almost defeated. He walks up to Rhaenyra. He kind of pulls her away. Their backs are to us as they look over the fire. At this point, you got to imagine he is giving her the news that Luke is dead. I'm not exactly sure how they would know it went down, but I imagine he's saying exactly what happened, and you got to know, I'm sure they know that Aemond is the one that did it. And then as you see the queen, she kind of looks like she's going to collapse. And, for an entire episode, all we've done is praise her for being calm, collective, calculated. It's about what's the best for the realm. It's not about the power. It's not about revenge. It's about all this stuff. And as our closing scene, she turns around and her face, just like it was in episode 1, we get the closing scene of her looking directly into the camera. The only thing on the camera is her face. And she just has this... the only thing I can compare this to, I'm a father. Obviously, I'm not a mother, and they always say a mother has, is going to be way worse. But as a parent, it was like this look of screw the rest of the world. I don't care about anybody in this world anymore. I'm going to go after every single one of them. And that, at least to me, that's the image that she has. And of course, it fades to black. And that is the end of season 1.
I immediately thought of Daenerys Targaryen, I guess, at the end, when she just kind of went, full on psycho and burned everything down. That's what I mean, I guess we'll find out, I guess, what happens. But yeah, when she turned around, I said, oh, it's full on Civil War time. Like it's go time.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Can't wait for season 2.
Yeah, I'm with you. I definitely can't wait for season 2. So I know this was our last episode following the different episodes that we've had this year. I know Ender has some plans as news comes up, production news, things like that. Ender's going to keep the podcast going off and on throughout the off season. I'm sure we'll bring Jason back in a few times. We'd love to hear your thoughts, buddy, on as they release trailers or teasers here and there as we prepare for season 2. But if that final scene with the dragons, I don't know what you think, is any indication, some of their work with the CGI and the dragons and stuff this season I thought was really, really well. You got to imagine it's going to continue to get better. This Dance of the Dragons, it's about to happen. It looks like HBO is going to do a phenomenal job. I think they're going to nail it. And I'm excited to see all these dragons go to war with each other.
Yeah, something that, when you said something about the CGI, something that caught my eye when Luke came back out of from meeting with the Lord. He came out and he's about to get on his dragon. I know it's going to sound weird, but it's something small, but it really caught my eye. They were in, that terrible rainstorm.
Yeah.
And just as they're about to take off, the dragon shakes the water off his face. I don't know why I caught that, but it's the little stuff like that I just can't wait for. You know what I mean? Like I that's the stuff I want to see. And like you said, with the dragons, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they can conjure up with when everything starts going down here soon with the dragons and the war and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I agree. It's the little stuff like that, just the CGI that's pretty awesome. But if you didn't catch it, you should go back.
Yeah. No, I'm going to look it up. I'm definitely going to look it up because I think they've done a phenomenal job with the CGI. It's interesting. It's interesting how far it has come over the years.
The dragons look amazing. Even in Game of Thrones, I thought they looked really, really good, and they're even obviously better now because what are we, 8-9 years ago from the first time a dragon maybe made its debut. So it's just the facial expressions and the just everything. I love it. I really do.
All right, Jason. Well, I think I'm going to sign us off here. You guys can find me at James III on all social media platforms, and the main podcast I host, which is Parents First Gaming. And Jason, where can they find you?
I am at Fire the Cannon, at F1RE the Cannon, and obviously you can check me out on 614 and beyond. I'm actually Wednesday gonna do about a 7 or 8 game. Well, I guess 8 game now. Will be an 8 game recap on the Blue Jackets, and we're also going to talk some Buckeye football. So should be pretty fun. Can't wait to go on there and start yakking about sports.
Yeah, we definitely look forward to hearing that podcast. Of course, you can find that on the Last Choice Network, along with any of our other podcasts. If you are watching on YouTube, you can find us on any audio platform, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, all of them. Any of our podcasts, or you can look at lastchoicenetwork.com. And if you're listening on audio, please look us up on YouTube. We love the likes, the follows, anything you guys can do, drop comments. And if you want us to cover a different TV show or something you're excited about, or you have comments, good or bad, or how you want the direction of any of our podcasts to go, please reach out to us. We do these for fun, but we also do them because we know some of you guys listening really enjoy. So we want to make it what's best for you. With that being said, this has been the Last Choice TV Reviews, House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 10. And with that being said, on behalf of Jason, Ender, and myself, hope you guys have a great rest of the morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you're listening. We'll talk to you later.